So, usually when there's nothing going on, no first or no piece of legislation, the agenda's right here. Just click over that. This is Isabel's presentation. If there's a presentation, it'll be here, or if there's some other piece of lesson that gets brought up in a session, it'll be here. That happens. This is the draw. So usually you want to go to legislature and then like new business, old business, whatever piece we're talking about is going to be. Yes. First reading is good. The rest is go ahead now. So that's when in doubt, go to the agenda, if something needs to be on, but you can leave it in the front.
But every friend I will support. I just need
Now I'm like questioning myself, like but I just didn't say grounds for legislative shall include the sorry, I should have thought about this. I think I'm gonna
No.
I'm waiting on that.
Yeah, it's oh.
All right, well, howdy everyone and welcome. I hope you all had a restful fall break and are doing well in the midst of midterm season. And with that, we will now move into creative opening roll call led by President Patel.
All right, guys, and I call your name, please say howdy. Howdy. You got something well.
Howdy.
Chairman Armstrong. Howdy. Chairman Chu. Chairman Morrison. Howdy. Chairwoman Gaddis.
Howdy.
Chairman Bax. Chairwoman Cornell.
Howdy.
Chairwoman Applewhite.
Howdy.
Chairwoman Wilhite. D.D. Herbert. Senator Fisher. Senator Fawn. Senator James. Senator Tanner Owen. Senator Williams. Senator Roscoe.
Howdy.
Senator Bounds. Senator Garcia.
Howdy.
Senator Jacino. Senator Oberoi. Senator Pham. Howdy. Senator Sanchez.
Howdy.
Senator Vernon.
Howdy.
Senator Daniel. Howdy. Senator Rodriguez. Howdy. Senator Sanders. Howdy. Senator Wright. Howdy. Senator Hunt. Senator Gilliam.
Howdy.
Senator Maynard. Senator Moore. Senator Bradley. Howdy. Senator Childs. Senator Gaines.
Howdy.
Senator Gubser. Senator Kim. Howdy. Senator Rollins. Senator Tucker.
Howdy.
Senator Yapple. Senator Applewhite. Senator Henry Smith. Senator Burrell. Senator Van Hooter.
Howdy.
Senator Orrego. Howdy. Senator Booth. Howdy. Senator Collinsworth.
Howdy.
Senator Edgerton.
Howdy.
Senator Hughes. Senator Coatson. Senator Jojo Owens. Senator Pritzloff. Howdy. Senator Conrad. Howdy. Senator Duncan.
Howdy.
Senator Flores.
Howdy.
Senator Kowalski. Howdy. Senator Hoffman. Senator House. Howdy. Senator Hurt.
Howdy.
Senator Jantz.
Howdy.
Senator Leahy. Howdy. Senator Monk. Senator Norton.
Howdy.
Senator Oliphant. Senator Anna Kate Owens.
Howdy.
Senator Puckett.
Howdy.
Senator Ratcliffe. Senator Schaefer. Senator Steele. Senator Sloan. Senator Hudson Smith. Senator Stone. Senator Teets. Senator Tripodi. Senator Tullis. Senator Horton. Senator Rasko. There you go.
All right, with that, we'll now move into the invocation and pledge of allegiance led by Adelaide Edgington. I'm Adelaide, I'm autistic, and I'm really honored to be here. So if you please bow your heads and Father, thank you so much for this day, and thank you for all the people that are gathered here today to serve the student senate. I think you should help us to keep in mind what's important and that we are here to serve the student body, but also to make relationships with each other and connections that will hopefully last all our lives. I think you should guide our decision-making processes and that you would help us to really do what's right, and that you would help us to be slow to anger and that we wouldn't be critical of each other, but that we would be encouraging each other and working together to really work for the student body. And I pray that you would help us to be examples of you and love everywhere we go, here in this room and outside of this room, all over campus. I pray that if there's anyone in this room tonight that doesn't know you, that you would soften their heart and that you would help them to understand the gospel and understand what you did for us on the cross. And I pray that for those of us that are Christian, that we wouldn't be ashamed of the gospel and that we would stand for it and everything. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
Now we can stand for prayers. We have our motion statement and honor code led by our longing serving Senator Chairman Armstrong.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Hi, Senate. The Texas A&M University Student Senate represents all students in order to enhance the Texas A&M experience within our university communities through research, legislation, and advocacy in accordance with the core values of our institution. The honor code, Aggie does not lie, cheat, or steal, or tolerate those who.
All right, with that, we'll now move into a period of open forum. Pro Tem Patel, do you have anyone for open forum?
I have Isabel Applewhite on behalf of Capitol.
2 minutes beginning at how. Isabel, and we're here on behalf of Katie Capitolta for our Blend student, not this Thursday, but next Thursday. Okay, so what is County Fair? So it's our fall philanthropy event, and it's raising money for our two philanthropies, the Potato Fund of Brian and PCAA, Prevent Child Abuse America. The prenatal clinic benefits impoverished pregnant women and their kids in the Bryan area. And the clinic wouldn't be able to operate and serve the women and their families without our annual contributions. And then we also send money to PCAA from the proceeds of County Fair.
So some stuff to look forward to when you get a ticket, you get 2 food items, so it's just fair carnival food. So hot dogs, nachos, fried Oreos, some good stuff. And then there's going to be performance from the active anglers for carnival games, vendors, and a petting zoo.
Okay, so it's next Thursday, come and go from 6 to 9 p.m. at the Capitolta House. Tickets are $5. If you want to get one for me, just text me, email me. Y'all have my email. You know me. And I will get you 2 food items and 2 carnival game passes. And then if you follow our Instagram, we'll be posting updates there. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun. Hopefully I'll see a lot of y'all there. All right, with that, our presenters are now open for a period of question and answer. There's any questions for our presenters? Seeing none, we thank them for their time. President Patel, do you have anyone else for open forum?
I have Brendan Hurt on behalf of PTHO Helene / Mercury One.
Senator. Awesome. So Senator Hurt, All Campus Caucus. Just talking a little about this. So, me and my friend Hannah, she has a huge passion right now for disaster relief and disaster response. If you know anything about the current events that are currently going on, Hurricane Helene has hit North Carolina, Florida, a lot of the East Coast. And with that, we're trying to do our best here in Hall Station to be able to help alleviate some of that damage. So what we're trying to do, we have certain supply drop off spots. One is at the Beta House and one is at the United Methodist Church. We're also working with various organizations to try to increase our supply drop off locations. If you are interested in ever donating money, you are donating it to Mercury One, which is our sister nonprofit right now, and they donate all those complete funds to the victims and survivors of Hurricane Helene. If you're interested at all in trying to serve and trying to be able to help your community, please reach out to us. We're trying to reach out to as many churches as we possibly can, reach out to as many men, women, or fraternity, Christian groups, how many we are trying to be able to reach out to, actually have a sustainable response in giving as much as we can to be able to help allocate funds and supplies to those who are most needed right now. Because the death toll just currently in South Carolina alone is already 49. That's on the lower estimate, that's the official death count. And if you've seen any of the images, just look at Asheville, North Carolina, it is completely flat. So I ask you to have a servant's heart, to be able to try and serve in whatever way possible. And if you're interested, please reach out to me, and so I can get you into our group. We're trying to coordinate some speaking events and location drop off slots. Thank you, Senator.
All right, with that, the presenter is now open for a question and answer. Do I see any questions for our presenter? I see Chairman Morrison.
What do you think are the biggest?
Right now, the best disaster relief, I would say, is right now diapers and formula. I think those are just not often thought out in your big supplies. Of course, food and water. I would say anything toiletry oriented, toothpaste, baby formula, diapers. Those I think would be most needed. Waters and power also.
All right, any other questions for our presenter? Seeing none, we thank him for his time. So Patel, do you have one to look for?
We do not.
All right, with that, we will now move to the approval of the 9/25/2024 meeting minutes. We will attempt to approve these via general consent. Do I see any objection to the approval of these meeting minutes? Seeing none, this motion does pass. With that, we will now move into old business, starting with SB 77-4, the presidential investiture of General Retired Mark A. Welch III bill. And with that, I will cede the chairship to Chairman Armstrong.
We'll have your presentation followed by Q&A and debate. Time begins on Howdy.
All right, well, how do you say it? All right. Speaker Blackburn, so this is the second reading of there's still a example. The first committee, the only changes that happened were a couple of dramatic fixes. Just making sure the titles were corrected, everything. Just reminding you the purpose of this bill. It provides some background on the investiture just happening on October 25th, and then charges the student body to attend and participate in some way, primarily by live stream, just participating in the week's events. And then it also tasks the Senate and Executive Branch to share information with the student body, which both are completely on board with doing. And a copy of this bill will be sent to the Texas A&M student body as well as President Welch. And so with that, I am open for questions.
Speaker Blackburn's open for questions. Do I see any questions? Seeing none, I thank Speaker Blackburn for presentation. And we'll move into debate. Starting with debate against, do I see any debate against?
comments? Seeing none, we'll move into debate 4. Do I see any debate 4? Seeing none, we'll move back into debate against. Any debate against? Seeing that debate has become one-sided, we will move into voting. We'll do this by voice vote. All those in favor of passage, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? It's the opinion chair that ayes have it. You're back to speaker box.
Thanks, that was quick. With that, we'll now move into the second reading of SA 7704, the fall 2024 Omnibus 2 Act.
Well, how said it? We'll work on getting it up there. There we go. So, we had quite the eventful rules and regulations meeting this past week, but Omnibus 2 was not the source of any of the eventfulness. Nothing changed at all. It's exactly the same as when you saw it 2 weeks ago. A different quick refresher. Chief Justice, if we'll scroll down a little bit. So we are striking first and foremost, well, striking and then amending the portion about certification of the elections. This just clarified that the Chief Justice can certify and is shall certify elections as they are able to be certified. So whenever, let's say, Senate's election, there are no more objections or violations to be filed, no more business to handle, but maybe the SVP race can still be investigated, or so big court cases happen, whatever. The Chief Justice will then certify the Senate election while the others are still pending. This is coming out of last year. There's confusion as to when that happens, if the Chief Justice is able to certify one election before others are ready. Last year, we ran into a problem where the Chief Justice was waiting to certify all of them at once, which would have put us behind our usual start date for Senate because we wouldn't have certified senators. So this just clarifies that the Chief Justice can and should certify races as they're able to be certified. You'll scroll down some more. The next part is striking the Tay Banks Core Values Exemplification Award thing. We haven't done that in a long time, as long as I've been here, which is not that long, but they call me the one serving senator, I guess. And so as long as I've been here, we haven't done it. And I can't find anyone who remembers it being done. So we're striking it, getting rid of it. And if we want to bring it back, we can, but I don't know. We haven't done it. So then the last thing is liaison establishment act. Again, something that we haven't done in even longer, I think, the Tay Banks Exemplification Award is just taking place in the code. So strike that. And last thing in the J-Court section of the last part of the code, it says the mission statement of the JAG Commission twice. And so just for the sake of clarity and precision, strike that. I believe that's it. So that's all, nothing changed. Any questions?
All right, with that, the author is now open for a period of question and answer. Do I see any questions for the author? Seeing none, we thank the author for his time. With that, we'll now move into a period of debate. We'll start debate against this piece. So I've seen debate against this piece. Seeing none, we'll now move into the first round debate for this piece. So I see debate for this piece. Seeing none, we'll now move into second round of debate against this piece. So I see debate against this piece. Seeing none, we'll now move into second round debate for this piece. So I see debate for this piece. Seeing none, it is the opinion of the chair that debate has become one-sided. We'll now move into a period of voting. This will be done via a standing vote led by Pro Tem Patel. All those in favor for the passage of SA 7704, please rise. All those opposed? By a vote of 43-0, this piece does pass. All right, with that, we will now move into second reading of Senate Act 7705, the Fall 2024 Impeachment Process Overhaul Act. The presenter will now have a 10-minute period of presentation.
Well, how is that? Again, the agenda for our meeting, this is a lot. This piece, we did quite a bit of edits. And I'll just quickly, like as a quick disclaimer, this was a contentious piece, and I knew it was gonna be a contentious piece when I wrote it. Following the recommendations from student affairs, and I have been trying my very best to remove my opinions on these changes from the mix. And so I conducted my rules and regs meeting accordingly. I was there primarily to facilitate discussion. So all of the edits that you're seeing on this piece did not come from me, they came from members of my committee or visitors who showed up to the meeting to discuss their thoughts. And so I'm happy to answer any questions about motive as best as I can describe, but just know that that's kind of how things happen. So without further ado, the biggest portion, we struck the specific grounds. Just figure out where that is. Yeah, right there. So if you'll scroll down just a little bit, Chief Justice, so that whole portion of specific grounds for impeachment, we struck all of it. If I remember correctly, the rationale from those senators who made the motion and argued for it was that for some of these, the grounds felt restrictive, and some of them felt overly broad. And on the wider point, they believed that going back to the previous standard of failure to uphold the duties or honor of the office would be sufficient. So that was the first thing we did. We struck the grounds. We then struck the preponderance of the evidence clause, which was the standard of evidence. Again, the committee felt that this sort of thing was, how would you say, redundant or overly shifting the process from is the thing in question impeachable versus did something happen. The feeling of the committee was that if we're calling impeachment, it should be fairly obvious that something has happened, and so that was the rationale for shifting that from the senators. So up at the beginning, with the failure to uphold the duties and office of, we struck and switched to and or, make a little more sense. And then we struck code of ethics. There's a portion where it says in accordance with code of ethics, which is something else, referring to the specific grounds of the show. So just there's a circular thing here that we struck again. So that is the edits that we made, I believe. If I forgot anything, bring it up and I'll talk on it, but I think I got everything. Like I said, I was there to facilitate discussion, but I'm happy to answer any questions on motives. That's all I got.
All right, with that, the presenter is now open for a period of question and answer. Are there any questions for the presenter? I see SVP Carpenter.
Hi, CP Carpenter. Can you tell us, do you think the grounds for impeachment are occurring, and maybe walk us through a little bit of just the rationale behind why like, the generic would probably be better than being more specific?
Absolutely. So the discussion swung largely on the last point in the grounds. We'll scroll back up. Perfect. Or not last, second to last, number 7, nepotism. Apropos, given the last year and a half, but the point was, the points that were brought up in discussion was that, well, there's no definition given there. Okay, you could say we could put a definition there of nepotism. There are disagreeing accounts with what constitutes that. Does that include only blood relatives? Does that include married-in cousins? Does that include close friends? Does that include roommates? It would depend on what we write in, right? That was where it came to. And so the problem with that is that every point of definition that you would give to something like nepotism, we could come up with a case where that would be misapplied, where someone might be improperly charged with nepotism when maybe the person in question was just the right person. And so we took that and applied to other areas of the grounds and said, well, when you put out specific grounds, there's always a chance that you find a case where that grounds could be applied improperly. And so then we look back at the original clause, which is failure to uphold the duties or honor of their office. We thought back to what does the federal government do, and federal government grounds for impeachment is high crimes and misdemeanors. Those two things are about equally specific. High crimes and misdemeanors is kind of vague. and so is the failure to uphold the duties for the office of whatever their office was. And so we figured, I say we, the committee figured that, well, failure to uphold the duties of the office encompasses all of that and allows for the Senate to determine, is this specific case an impeachable case of whatever the ground is? For example, nepotism. Is this case an impeachable case of nepotism, or is it looks kind of like nepotism, quacks kind of like nepotism, but the person's actually present? It puts that discretion back to the Senate versus someone being able to come and say, well, the code says nepotism, that dude's his brother, so we must do. Does that make sense? On my specific thoughts on it, I tend to fall back to the more vague, failure to uphold duties in office. I generally think giving discretion to the Senate on things like this, similarly to how the appeals process for the budget is left to the discretion of the finance chair. I think that model is great because it allows for kind of finer detail than I think specific ground.
All right, I see any other questions? Senator Conrad.
Senator Conrad of Jacob's office, do you think an edit of the specific grounds would be more appropriate than getting rid of them?
I would be open to a discussion about it. The committee saw fit to strike the entire thing. I would be interested in the discussion of maybe a different edit. I think I say that just insofar as that I can definitely be wrong about my attachment to the vague duties and honor of the office. At present, I don't know what a better option would look like, but if you got a better idea, I'd love to hear about it in debate. But yeah, as of right now, I'm happy with where it sits, but I would love to hear whatever you guys.
I have Senator Hurt next.
Senator Gerhoff, it's office. My question is, do you think that striking all the specifics gives more power to the Senate or less?
I think it gives more power to the Senate because the thing that was brought up in committee was that when you have specific grounds for impeachment, there was a debate of do we do the specific grounds and then also add or failure to uphold or failure to uphold the duties around the office to say basically like an including but not limited to sort of clause. We thought about that, but what the committee kept coming back to was what we really don't want is for rogue senators in the future to be able to take that the specific wording and say, look, he violated the this part of the grounds, whichever item it is. Look, it says he can't do that, and he did it. We also looked at the violation of a state law or failure to report the state law. So under that clause, if I saw you run red light, I failed to report it, I could be impeached. And if somehow someone saw me see you do that and failed to report it, then I could be impeached, right? That doesn't seem like an impeachable offense to me. I see people break state law all the time. People run red lights, people, when we talked about, if you saw an officer of the Senate breaking underage, like if you failed to report that to the Senate, you would be impeached, right? I feel like that probably applies to politics. And so we figured we didn't want these specific grounds to be used improperly, whereas failure to uphold the duties or honor gives the Senate the ability to say, okay, let's be real here, that's not impeachable. Yeah.
Do I see any other questions for the author? Seeing none, we thank the author for his time. With that, we will now move into debate on this piece. We will start debate against this piece. So I see debate against this piece. I see Senator Conrad.
Senator Conrad of Jacob's office, I move to unstrike section 1, subsection B, which includes set of grounds for.
Seeing that motion has been made, do I see a second? Seeing that motion has been made and seconded, it is debatable and amendable. We will now move into debate on this motion, starting with debate against this motion. I saw him. I do have to read it again.
Hattie said it.
How-
So just want to reiterate what I just was saying during presentation and Q&A. I think that I would be interested in hearing an edit to the grounds, where maybe some of them remain and some of them do not, or maybe new grounds are put in. But I think just unstriking what is already there is a bad thing. Here's why. As I was describing earlier, some of these, on the face of it, sound really good. Like, we don't want officers of the Senate breaking federal law. That's generally a bad idea. And I would like to be able to impeach someone if they go rob a bank at gunpoint. Now, I don't want to be impeached because Luke saw me accidentally run a stop sign the other day. That doesn't seem like an impeachable offense. Now, that's a breach of state traffic law. And under these grounds, that would be an impeachable offense. It would also be an impeachable offense if Luke failed to report that. And somehow somebody found out about that. He could be impeached as well. And so, my worry, and the community's worry, is that these grounds, as they're written, can easily be abused to impeach somebody. We're giving more tools to a runaway Senate or rogue members of the Senate to impeach someone that they don't like on grounds that really aren't impeachable. Now, go back to the failure to uphold the duties or honor of the office. What does that mean? You didn't do your job, okay? That's very well impeachable. And you didn't uphold the honor. Basically, everything on there falls in either the duties or the honor of the office. If you violate state law and rob a bank at gunpoint, you're not upholding the honor of your office, and we should. But if you don't do your job, like mismanaging funds on there, we should be you. You didn't do your job. All of these grounds can be summed up in the duties for the office, or up here for the duties for the office. Occam's razor is a familiar decision-making matrix. It says the simplest answer is often the best. I think the most concise right of this, and still cover all of our bases, is the best. So that's why I would argue against this. With that, I yield to. Cool. Oh, sorry. Let's see it.
Seeing as the floor has been yielded to, we will now move into the second round debate. The first round debate for this amendment, there's no debate for. I see Senator Conrad.
Senator Conrad, off-campus caucus. I want to make it clear that my amendment is not my support for these specific grounds. I am just worried that if we get rid of them in their entirety and leave it to failure to uphold the duties and or honor of their office, that is giving the Senate and specifically key parts of the Senate too much authority to bring up grounds of impeachment on somebody that they don't like, or somebody who retaliated against them, or something of that effect. I think having these grounds in here, again, not these specific ones, but having something in there gives the Senate a good benchmark of what is an impeachable offense. I know whenever I first started in Senate, I didn't really have the knowledge of what should be an impeachable offense and what shouldn't be. And I think that's where the experience of the Senate comes into play. And again, these are just grounds for impeachment. This is not an automatic impeachment. So in the instance of seeing somebody run a red light, you don't report. The Senate has the wherewithal determined to know that that specifically is not an impeachable offense. Whereas if they see somebody spraying graffiti somewhere on campus or something like that, and they don't report that, that is a more serious situation. And so we need to be able to have a good benchmark to say that that's listed in the code, that's something that we thought might come up. So I don't agree with these specific grounds, but I do strongly believe that we should have some type of benchmark in the code for a senator to look back and evaluate his things. I yield to.
Seeing as the floor has been yielded to, we're now moving to our second round debate against. I see debate against. First.
Chairman Morrison, Finance, Body Senate. I just first want to start with the sentence. I trust this. The bar for impeachment is incredible. Absolutely different hoops to get there, and I think the Senate can figure out what is an impeachable
offense and was not an impeachable offense without that being explicitly spelled out. The other thing I want to talk about is this is not specific local, violating state and federal to include local law, it's not, but a violation of local law includes living in one residence. So if this did happen to include local law, it would ask Member Student Government Association, first off, that we could be impeached for having a fifth roommate. And also, all of your friends would be obligated, if they're officers of Student Government Association, would be obligated to sell out. I think the duties and honor of the office is more than sufficient. With that, I yield to Senator Pritzlaff.
Seeing the floor is now to Senator Pritzlaff, you'll have 1 minute and 33 seconds beginning at how
Senate and Senator Pritzlaff on campus caucus. I disagree with striking the grounds for impeachment for a couple reasons, mostly having to do with flexibility. If the way that this particular bill is written or this act is written, if we leave that point in there, we run the risk of those being the only grounds for impeachment. So, for example, if the student body president was running around smoking on campus, like disrupting students or something like that, he might not be violating law or impeding his own duties, but he would be dishonoring the office. The way it's phrased, he could get out of it on a technicality, and conversely, someone could nail him on a technicality because they saw him like run light on accident or something like that. So it's that flexibility that I think is better when we don't have the specific grounds. And I think that the risk running is that people can just bring up impeachment for whatever they want. The specific grounds clause later on, I think kind of remedies that in the petitions and in the resolution. We have to have a specific ground that you're pointing to. So there's specific charges that are being levied. And if you don't have something specific, you're kind of keeping it vague. There's grounds to throughout the impeachment process entirely. So I think leaving more flexibility for what can be considered an impeachable offense, duties and honor that feel up to the Senate. I trust the Senate to figure out what that means, and I also trust the Senate to have specific charges. I think that's why we should not do that.
With that, we will now move into second round debate 4 this moment. Do I see debate 4? I see Senator Conrad. 2 minutes and 30 seconds starting here.
Senator Conrad, off campus caucus. I want to point out that it says that these grounds shall include. It is in no way limiting the grounds that Senate can bring up for impeachment. That is entirely up to the discretion of the Senate, as it should be. Again, this is just giving the Senate.
You never said how you.
I believe the good senator is also out of order because she did not say her name in comments. And Howdy is not a part of the official greeting, it's just stated on this.
Thank you. So again, this is not limiting. It is just giving us a few ideas of what could be considered impeachable offenses. It's not saying these are automatic grounds for impeachment. That is something that is entirely up to us. This is just giving us the firm. I yield to Chair Speed.
Seeing that Chair 2 has been yielded to, you'll have 1 minute and 48 seconds to get back
Howdy, I'm Chair Choose Student Services. So mainly just coming up here to say that I agree with Senator Conrad, the part where these are just like specific grounds, like as examples, right? But we shouldn't be limited to those examples. So maybe considering adding, like maybe after just consideration, not actually making them limited, but putting after shall include, but not limited to maybe or something. So a language that's more like inclusive to the idea of the Senate, where the Senate will still have the power to interpret the code, but also having specific examples so that maybe like they can have like a frame of reference or a path to like, hey, this is actually what the impeachment word. With that, I yield to Senator Conrad.
Seeing the floor is yielded to Senator Conrad, you will have 1 minute and 3 seconds beginning at Howdy.
Senator Conrad, James Conference.
Howdy.
This amendment would also help preserve the integrity of the impeachment process. If we give the code to the student body president and it just says failure to uphold the duties and or honor of their office, and the Senate comes after them for something that they didn't even know fell under that category, that would cause a big issue between the executive and the legislative branch, because nowhere was it included, what could be considered an impeachable offense. And so in order for us to kind of even the playing field and let everybody know what they're working with, and to be able to hold people accountable in a respectful and fair way, we need to be able to include some grounds for other people to use to reference points. I go to.
I think that the floor has been yielded to, will now move into the third and final round of debate, starting with Senator Hurd. The 2 minutes and 30 seconds beginning now.
Senator Hurd, off campus caucus, how you been? So I think we're kind of getting a little bit lost in the weeds, with the issues a little bit, and I want to clarify it first and foremost. We kind of have a really nice reflective government in our Texas A&M over reflect the national government. So I like using national government framework, particularly because I'm a political major. So if we go back to 1775, and we're talking about the ratification of the Constitution of over high cons and misdemeanors, they discuss that it is any corrupt action that upholds or bars the individual from holding their office. I think the reason why the Constitution has this vague understanding, why I think are reflective of the ability to honor and fulfill one's duties, should also play as a more vague circumstance because of the power dynamic of three branches of government. We need three of the branches to be able to put checks and limits on each other. We talked about this in our 206 and 207 policies a little bit in regards to our state and national levels. That also needs to apply, I think, to our student level. And secondly, the big thing is that we have a specific list. If you're looking at this through a constitutional, contextual, or originalist framework with regard to the judicial interpretation, if there is not that statement that it's limited to, then you are actually quite literally shackled. The Senate is shackled to the limits of what crimes are specifically outlined. But again, as we had the discussion much earlier, what is nepotism? Again, we have various definitions of this. This again allows for even more total issues and more argumentation, more fights in regards to the constitutional context of our code. And I think that's why I argue more and stand in favor of the honor and duties of office rather than instead of providing a specific list. Because it puts a shackle and limits the student government, particularly in regards to the Senate, to be able to have that flexibility of interpretation. Now, I understand that we would like to have a specific list of not including but not limited to. But that, again, with the list currently as is, put the shackle on anyone who fails to report a stop sign report.
Madam Speaker, I move to extend the period of debate by 1 round.
Motion has been made and seconded. It is undebatable but amendable as to rounds of debate. We will attempt to vote on this via a. Sorry. Okay, your turn. We'll attempt to vote on this via a voice vote. All those in favor of adding a round of debate, please say aye. Opposed?
Nay.
It is definitive, the ayes have it.
Division.
Speaking of division has been called, we'll now vote on this via a standing vote. All those in favor of adding a round of debate, please stand as you are able. All those opposed? By a vote of 19 to 18, that I thankfully do not have to break, this motion does pass. All right, you have 20 more seconds and you have another debate.
County Senate. Okay, so going into the actual issues, it's a good one, because if it's good enough for the national government, it should be good enough for our student government. Secondly, we do not want to have unbalanced powers, and having a list puts an unbalance of powers, put the burden on the legislature where they do not have the interpretation to be able to final arrangement. With that, I stand for.
Perfect. With that, we'll now move into the third round debate for this amendment. Do I see any debate for this amendment? I see Senator Conrad. Two minutes, 30 seconds, starting now.
Senator Conrad, off-campus caucus, again, I want to point out that this is not limiting, it just says shall include. There are many other impeachment grounds, this is just what's listed in the code. Also, I think if we want to reflect the federal government, that is a smart thing to do, but I think we could also agree that sometimes there need to be some more checks and balances on some of our elected leaders. And by putting these grounds into the code and giving us a frame of reference for what an impeachable offense is, I think that is helping reinforce the ideas that the Senate uses that power very discerning, and it doesn't just bring it up for any issue, any disagreement that they might have with any member of the student government. And so I think that this is really important to keep in here some form of grounds to protect the integrity of the Senate and the impeachment process. And I
The floor has been yielded to. We will now move into the fourth round debate against this motion. I see Chairman Armstrong.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Chairman Armstrong, Wilson Ranks, Hattie Senate. My last argument is one that is near and dear to my heart as a regulation, Chairman, and that is talking about how we write amendments to the code. Now, I am fundamentally a conservative person, not in the political sense, but in the just like resistance to change sense. And I think generally that if the status quo is at least not harmful in the immediate future, we should prefer the status quo over a bad change. Now, I think passing these grounds as they're listed right now constitutes a bad change, moving in the negative direction. Now, if we were to pass it as has been suggested and then amend it afterwards, we'd be moving back in the positive direction. My argument to that is why not just not strike it and then add what we want? I don't think we should put in bad code just to then know we're going to amend it later. Why not just strike the whole thing and put in what we want afterwards? I think putting this in, we run the risk that it never actually gets stricken and that bad code remains in the code. And that goes against my conservative sensibilities with our governing documents. And so, because of this, I would love to see us strike down this amendment, so restrike the ground, and then see an amendment that puts in great specific grounds that I keep hearing about, but no one is listening specifically. If we have some, I'd like to hear them, just not right now. Let's strike it and then add them in. Instead of putting in bad code that we're just going to strike later. Let's be a little bit more efficient, a little bit more concise, a little bit more careful with our governing documents. I yield to Chair Morrison.
Seeing that Chair Morrison has been yielded to, you will have 59 seconds starting now.
Chair Morrison, I'll make a quick Patty Senate. You cannot say simultaneously, this is not a limitation of the Senate, and then also say that it has to check and a balance. Those two things just fundamentally don't make sense. I've also heard the idea that we need a list of ideas. I trust the Senate. If it looks impeachable, it sounds impeachable, it smells impeachable, the Senate can have specific grounds. The specific grounds don't have to be specifically listed out. Brainstorming, when I submit an assignment, I usually don't include my essay brainstorming sheet, and this is kind of what it feels like. And so I would encourage you to vote against this. That I yield to Senator Hurt.
Senator Hurt, you will have 17 seconds.
Senator Hurt, off-campus caucus, County Senate. So, I can't talk about the judicial court a little bit from the aspect of it. they are also in checks and balances affected by this issue. We're talking about the grounds of impeachment, considering impeachment. The actual final say goes up to regards to the judicial court as well with it. So the Senate can have the grounds.
Rather than one for Mr. Love.
Checks and balances are good now. Don't.
All right, with that, we'll now move into our last round debate for this amendment. Do I see any debate for this amendment? Seeing none, we will now move into a period of voting on this amendment. All those in favor of this amendment, please rise. All those opposed. This motion does it. So now let's backtrack. Senator Conrad, you have the floor in debate against this piece.
I yield. It's like.
Seeing that the floor has been yielded to, we'll now move into the first round debate for this piece. So I'm seeking debate for this piece. Seeing none, we will now move into the round debate against this piece. So I'm seeking debate against this piece. Seeing none, we'll now move into the round debate for this piece. So I'm seeking debate for this piece. Thank
you, Madam Speaker. Hi, Senate. Chair, I'm sorry, just a brief note, not about voting on this, because we're going to vote for, but just as a note, my committee meets next week, Thursday night, 7 p.m. It'll probably be across the hall. Actually, last time it was in the conference room. TBD, 7 p.m. Thursday in Colville. I would love if you have some great ideas, or you think of them in the shower this week, about how we could put in like perfectly crafted grounds for impeachment. That would be wonderful, and not about all the things about tonight. Please come and talk to me at the meeting. The committee would love to hear you, and you can also get an absence excuse if you have absences that you want to get rid of. All of these are great things that would make the world a better place. Just come and talk about them at the meeting. We'd love to get maybe a new change happening at the next meeting if we think that's necessary. But well done on the amendments, and with that, yield the floor.
Seeing that the floor has been yielded to, we will now move into the second round debate, starting with debate against this piece. So I'm seeking debate against this piece. Seeing none, we'll now move into the last round debate for this piece. So I'm seeking debate for this piece. Seeing none, debate has concluded. We'll now move into a period of voting. This will be done via a standing vote led by Pro Tem Patel. All those in favor of the passage of Senate Act 7705, please rise if you're able. All those opposed? By a vote of 41-0, this one does pass. That concludes old business. We will now be moving into a period of new business, starting with SB 7705, the Outreach Exploration Bill. If the author will please come to the floor. Give us 1 second.
Speaker. Howdy.
State your name.
Chairman Morrison, Finance, the good senator is on the screen, it states that slacks with a button up shirt.
Section 2, right under it says that you need a suit and a tie, formal neckwear.
I'm going to defer to my rules and reg chair and will likely take a brief stand at these.
Order.
Okay, according to section 1. According to section 1, subsection B, bullet 1 I, so, yeah. It says slacks with a button-up shirt tucked in, comma, with a belt, it's not or, so therefore.
The section immediately under it says, one of the other options are a suit and a belt, which I do have on me, and that's formal neckwear.
Considering that this is unclear in the dress code, we are going to rule with Senator Steele. Thank you, Team President.
Thank you. All right, now with that out of the way, howdy. All right, so
Yes.
Sorry, I'm just a passionate person. What, Isabel Applewhite, constituency affairs chair, a suit, actually, maybe we should look this up, but I'm pretty sure a suit has to be matching jacket and pants.
I asked the chair and the speaker if there's a definition of suit in the code.
A little interested, but just like.
I'll make the calling on this. While I agree with Chair Applewhite in that, yes, that might be the correct definition of a suit via the internet and I also agree with Senator Steele in that a suit clearly is not defined in the code as it being a matching piece. And so with that, I still rule with Senator Steele in that case.
I thank the speaker. Senator Boo, I'll just have to take her off at some time, I guess.
Howdy.
Well, I'll try and be quick. I don't really want to waste y'all's time, but I appear to have already done that via my fashion choices, so I apologize. So this is the outreach exploration bill. This is something I worked on last session, and I decided to introduce it for this session since I believe it still is useful for the purposes of the Senate and SBA and code. So essentially, the point of this, or the whereas is, I'll start with the whereas is, it essentially details our position right now in terms of outreach to the general student body. Currently, besides social media, the only form of in-person outreach we currently commit to on a regular basis is tabling. Now, there's multiple issues with tabling, both notably being that we have limited manpower as a constituency affairs committee, and also just in the Senate in general. People are busy. We're busy people, and oftentimes we don't have enough people to take. That can be a big issue when it comes to physical outreach. Again, that's outreach in terms of person to person, or just whenever you're walking around campus. So the purpose of this bill is to kind of start rectifying that issue via a meeting with the External Relations Committee, via the executive side, and the Constituency Affairs Committee. They'll have a meeting, a joint meeting to brainstorm more ideas for outreach, in-person outreach, and ideas that will perhaps go into effect in the next semester or even the next session. And then the Constituency Affairs Chair and the External Relations Chair will conduct a report to be given to the Senate, which the voting body should know what types of outreach they will recommend or won't recommend, and any ideas that they see as something we should implement.
So that's the whole point of this bill. The bill will be sent to all the normal people, the student body, the student body president's on there, I believe. All the vice presidents and the constituency affairs chair and retired Brigadier General Jody Ramirez. With that out of the way, I believe I'm on these questions.
With that, the presenter is now open for a period of question and answer. I saw Senator Roscoe first.
Senator Roscoe, question office. I was wondering if you had any ideas for.
Oh, yeah, I had a few ideas. I would bring them up as well to the joint meeting, if this bill is passed, but generally I had a couple of ideas of something like stands at caucus buildings, so, Zachary for engineers, ALS for E for ALS caucus, kind of having information on what student government is, maybe kind of contact their specific senators. That's one of the main ideas I've had for in-person outreach. I have some others, but I think that I would be better suited discussing that at the joint meeting if this bill is passed.
I have Chairman Morrison next.
Chairman Morrison, how are you just gonna look at the?
So that's a great question. I'm actually going to meet with the External Relations Vice President, Macy Johnson. I'll meet with her on Friday to discuss this bill. This is something I wanted to say in the last meeting. Unfortunately, this was voted down in consideration. But something I do want to say is that I'm not here to try and make relations muddy with executive branch. If the Vice President of External Relations, Ms. Johnson, is for whatever reason just very not for this piece, I'm willing to kill it. I do not want to start any controversy among the executive branch and the legislative branch. I think we have great relations right now, and I do not want to ruin that. But to answer your question, I'm meeting with her on Friday afternoon.
I see any other questions. I see Senator Fitzgerald.
Senator Fritzlaw on campus caucus, would you say that this provides an opportunity to actually decide who the executive is?
Oh, yes, 100%. The Constituency Affairs Committee and the External Relations Committee can have their own meetings separately. But I think having that sort of teamwork there with this bill would definitely strengthen relations if both chairs are.
Do I see any other questions for the author? Seeing none, we thank the author for his time, and this piece will be sent to the Constituency Affairs Committee. With that, we will now move to the consideration of Senate Act 7706, the Coordinating All Meetings Purposefully Act. If the author will please come to the floor.
Chairman Morrison, Finance, hi, Senate. So this meeting, this act is relatively simple. It strikes the session about summer session meetings, and I real quick want to go over the awareness. I think it's two main reasons. Good idea. So over the summer, student senators are often able to attend the two mandatory meetings to other temporary summer commitments, including working internships, summer camps, studying abroad, etc. And whereas any matter that needs attending to can handle at a special session that can be called at any time by the speaker, the student body president, or 1/3 of the student senate membership. Right now, we are obligated to meet over the summer, and it comes with weird things that are just specific to summer session meetings. And I think it makes more sense for those meetings to be called at the very at the discretion of people I just mentioned.
Right, with that, the floor is now open for questions, and I'm actually gonna start with myself on this one. Do you think, Speaker Blackburn, do you think that we would have more difficulty scheduling and calling a special session? Since considering in years past, summer sessions are scheduled sometimes 3 months in advance.
For sure, I don't think we have any noticeable change in attendance as necessary, because when we are calling these meetings, will be to actually address like issues of real importance as opposed to just an arbitrary oh, we're obligated to meet. It feels a lot more optional.
With that, I see Senator Pitslaw.
Senator Pitslaw on campus caucus. Her question is, believe that removing summer sessions would slow the progress of the Senate only hitting ground in the fall.
Not at all, because I think, I mean, for the most part, the Senate's main work is done while schools are in session, while students are here, but any work that needs to be done can be done at these special sessions that are called by the speaker, student body president, or 1/3 of student Senate membership.
Tracy and I see Senator Pitslaw.
Senator Pitslaw, okay, more technical questions. Would you be open to changing how the session would be called? So we could to grant more time, or I know you're gonna be like a couple weeks for the summer session, for a meeting during the summer. Would you be agreeable to having an amendment that push that time frame a little farther out, so senators like some kind of more awareness?
I'd be open to discussing that. My just initial gut reaction is there's no limitation on like how soon in advance a speaker, student body president, or 1/3 a student Senate membership can call a special session. And so if it's like a known thing that's going to have to be addressed, then I think it can be called with lots of time, with a large time frame.
I see Senator Hurt.
Senator Hawkins caucus, I guess, are you opposed to the idea of daily summer session, like meetings, or do you want more just in person, like, did you get back to the, when spring starts happening? Or since there's not any.
I think the real reason I introduced this legislation is because I'm opposed to meetings that don't need to happen. Right now, we're obligated to have 2 meetings, and the rules governing those are in some ways different, like than any of the other normal regular meetings that we have. And I think also just the process for part of the special session is fully sufficient to address any of the things that are.
Chairman Force. Chairman Armstrong.
Do you think in relation to Senator Pritzloff's question, would you be interested in an amendment that would not just extend there's not really a time limit on how early in advance you can do, but putting in a requirement for how early in advance you must call a summer session, so that for example, student senators would have a given amount of time that they would be guaranteed in order to plan for that meeting.
Like just for, that's a question to you,
We should be back and forth.
for all special sessions or specifically summer sessions?
I mean, for summer sessions, a requirement given that if, for example, if such summer special session were to be called, it would have to be filed, I don't know, 2 weeks from a advance of when it would occur, so that to protect against a summer session being called the day before it happens and then jumping in.
For sure, I think.
Would you be interested in that?
I would be willing to discuss it. I think a speaker, a student body president, 1/3 student senate membership, that's a little bit different. It would be silly to call a special session with 1 day to spare. And I just don't think a reasonable speaker or student body president elected by the Senate or the student body would call a special session with only 1 day to spare unless it was something really important. I think the gravity of that issue would attract attendance.
I have Senator Steele.
Senator Steele, off your cautious, considering that we had pieces of legislation being submitted and voted on both of our summer session meetings, do you believe that this act could potentially reduce the productivity of the Senate?
I don't believe so, because when a meeting needs to happen, it will be called. So also, just to add to that, at the second meeting, there was only 1 piece of legislation. So I authored to move $800 allocation, and just in complete transparency, only a fraction of that was spent. So.
Thank you.
I see any other questions. I see Senator Pitslaw. This will be the last question.
Would you be interested, instead of just completely removing the session, making it easier for the?
Well, as of right now, there's not a single method to cancel these meetings. The student said it must meet during the 2 summer sessions for a minimum of 2 meetings in the summer months of June, July, and August. I'd be open to discussing that, but I think I am generally of the opinion that it's something that doesn't need to be written out. There's no point in doing that. It allows leadership more flexibility to hold meetings as necessary, and I frankly do think that our method for calling special sessions is fully sufficient.
All right, with that, we thank the superintendent for this time. All right, with that, we'll now move into a period of open session. The floor is now open for motions. I see Senator Steele.
Senator Steele, off Kansas Caucus, I vote.
Second.
Seeing that motion has been made and seconded, it is undebatable and unamendable and will require a majority vote. Comes to this via a voice vote. All those in favor of closing open session, please say aye. All those opposed? It's determined the ayes have it and open session is closed. With that, we'll now move into a period of committee reports, starting with Speaker Pro Tem Ford. Do I see any questions for Pro Tem Patel? Seeing none, we thank the Pro Tem for his time. With that, we'll now move to our rules and regulations chair. Do I see any questions for Chairman Armstrong? Oh, I see Chair Applewhite.
Isabel Applewhite, Chair. Do you have any updates, guys?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Chairman Applewhite. So like I said, this last week's R meeting was quite eventful. We got a lot done. We discussed quite a bit of things. We've got more things coming down the pipe. And so I would love to see any and all of you at our next meeting, this coming Thursday. Well, not tomorrow, a week from tomorrow at 7 p.m. told us. Namely, we were discussing election regulation reforms as requested by the Election Commission. So if you have any ideas about elections, campaigning, that sort of thing, we are in the works on that. So please come and talk about it. You can always send me an email or a text. And we also are moving towards an appropriation. What's the word? For seats. Reapportionment package, talking about how seats are apportioned for the various caucuses. If you have questions, concerns about that, suggestions, please come to the meeting. We'll talk about that too. And then lastly, there was discussion about finance appeals. There was a J-Court case last week. We'll be discussing, if you have any updates or questions about finance appeals process, feel free to bring that and talk about it this week. We'll talk about it again next week if you want to, but if you have any questions, then we're gonna in regards to finance appeals. So with that, please come to the meeting. That's all I got. Thanks.
All right, are there any other questions for Chairman Armstrong?
Thanks, guys.
Seeing none, we thank him for his time. With that, we'll move to our Student Services Chair. Do I see any questions for Chairman Chu? Seeing none, we thank him for his time. With that, we'll move to our Finance Chair. Do I see any questions for Chairman Morrison? Seeing none, we thank him for his time. With that, we'll move to our Community Relations Chair. Do I see any questions for Chairwoman Gaddis? I see Chairman Morrison.
Chairman Morrison, Finance.
I do. Okay, so we have our city council candidates forum October 16th at 5 p.m. in this room. So basically, we're gonna have local candidates come in from city council, all of the after talk, discussion, understand kind of what they're thinking, because I know there's a lot of movement going on, especially with like neighborhood for rental inspections, all of this, all that. So I really encourage y'all to come. I really encourage y'all roommates, classmates, peers, everything.
Do I see any other questions for the chairwoman? Seeing none, we thank her for her time. With that, we'll move to our Legislative Relations Chair. Do I see any questions for the Legislative Relations team? Seeing none, we thank them for their time. With that, we'll move to our Academic Affairs Chair. Do I see any questions for Chairwoman Cornell? I see Senator Steele.
Senator Steele, off Kansas Caucus, what are you working on?
Exciting. So I had a proposal last month, where I talked to folks about getting the association to host our second annual
advisor appreciation luncheon, so I have my meeting with them tomorrow. If so, then it will be for March 19th. And we also asked for a small increase in budget to be able to have a little bit more fun about what we can do with that. We're also working on person development, programming and having with them. So far, haven't heard back from them, so I'm hopefully involved with email with them to maybe hopefully do some programming. There's also an opportunity for us to table at the first gen celebration and partner. So I'm actually talking about what's gonna happen with that. Actually, also an opportunity for person to go out the table and get connected. It's we're also working on campus initiatives, so our committee is going to out survey soon. Just to the students to be able to give their feedback on what can we do / talk to administration about to be able to help better what is already accessible on campus / what we want to do on campus. But also to look into what they're going to do on campus and student programming projects right now. What I'm doing.
Do I see any other questions for the chairwoman? Seeing none, we thank her for a third time. With that, we'll move to our constituency affairs chair. Do I see any questions for Chairwoman Applewhite? Seeing none, we thank her for her time. With that, we'll move to our diversity and inclusion chair. Do I see any questions for Chairwoman Wilhite? Seeing none, we thank her for her time. With that, we'll move to our executive director of operations. Do I see any questions for Ethel Herbert? Seeing none, we thank her for her time. With that, we'll now move into a period of executive reports, starting with SVP Coppinger.
Hi, Bennett. Okay, well, coming up soon, guys, in the next couple of weeks, we have the investiture of President Walsh. I don't know if you guys have seen any emails or anything of that sort. We'll be having an event that we are hosting the day before. It's just gonna be like a really quick line to go through the academic plaza. I encourage you guys to all make it. Your schools, that we're gonna have every school represented with some fun gear and just think you can win it. We're also gonna have those little like cinnamon roll. Those are gonna be good, so I promise you want it and be there for that. That's gonna be the day before the investiture. I highly encourage you, if you did not RSVP, to watch it on the live stream. This is a very historical event. I'm very thankful for the bill that was passed regarding the investiture. But I would highly encourage you guys to watch it. It's just a respect thing for General Welch, but also I think it's a really incredible thing for us as student leaders to just be aware and support him through that. And then we'll be having a barbecue after. I highly encourage you guys to come to that as well. Free food. I don't know what else I can tell you on. And then lastly, we're just finishing out all our projects. If there's anything that you guys need help with, please let me know. We're making some serious progress in student engagement. We'll be having SVP kind of just come and give your feedback to get a little cinnamon roll. So we'll be doing that the next coming week, and we'll get seeing that, and we'll send out all this information to the student body via an SGA newsletter in the upcoming week or so, kind of encouraging students to get involved with the investiture as well as just getting involved and keeping them updated on all. So that's it.
All right, the SVP is now open for a period of question and answer. Do I see any questions? I see Chief Justice Leffingwell.
Chief Justice Leffingwell, would you be able to elaborate a little bit on the origin of the you mentioned cinnamon rolls? Will they be coming from your kitchen, or are you going to be buying them?
Guys, they will not be coming from my kitchen. I'll do everybody a favor and say no on that. It's coming from, is it Cinnaholic? Cinnaholic? Wow, I'm so glad Dylan's not here to confirm that. Dylan's the one working on that. Cinnaholic. Well, guys, I've heard nothing but great things about Cinnaholic, so I highly encourage you all to give love a review.
You not tried them?
I've been hearing incredible things. I mean, if somebody tells me a cinnamon roll's good, I believe them. Okay.
They're vegan though.
Oh,
I'm so sorry. Hey, I'm gonna work on that.
all right, guys. Any other questions for the SVP?
Thank you, guys.
All right, with that. With that, we will now move to the executive report from our Chief Justice.
Well, y'all are so welcome for my amazing fireworks tonight. So we had a really exciting last week. I don't know if heard, or I saw it, when we had our first case of the year, it was very exciting. We had a few hiccups in sitting down. But it went really well. We continued that night. Put it out there at 1 a.m. So really excited for the justices. We're going to be tomorrow to discuss things. Just some questions for the process.
All right, with that, the Chief Justice is now open for questions. Do I see any questions for our Chief Justice? Actually, I have a question. How, you said, I have the timestamp email, that opinion was sent out at 1:01 a.m. How far past your bedtime?
So just for some context, I like to go to bed by 9 p.m. So most of the time when I hear y'all do keeping past my bedtime, I have gotten quite grumpy at 1 p.m. Justices are like, in the doing, and I was ready. But you know, the service to the student body was just my top priority. So it wasn't.
That's this. I see SPV Carpenter.
It seems like you've been having a lot of cases recently. How do you feel like the J Board is responding to this activity and just kind of much for movement in the
Well, before I'm gonna respond, you said a lot of things.
well, I mean, ask how.
Actually, back and forth, great.
Oh, sorry. Oh, I'm done. Continue. Are you done with your answer?
I think you confused me a little bit. Are you referring to being in some cases like something?
I heard it. I heard
Pro Tem Patel.
Pro Tem Patel, I was just wondering, what's it like being behind, the computer, and would you ever consider, taking assault with the legislative branch and joining Senate operations?
I would not consider joining Senate. I do love my position, and I want to apologize to Chair Applewhite for getting really confused and during the presentation. It's not easy.
All right, with that, do I see any other questions for our Chief Justice? I see Senator Hurd.
Senator Hurd on campus policy, what does it feel like wearing a robe?
Not really how hot it gets in there. Like, they're pretty bulky. Their things are really expensive too, so that's why I always fight for good dry cleaning. But I do feel very distinguished. So.
All right, there's any other questions? With that, we thank the Chief Justice for her time. I will now see the chairship to Pro Tem Patel to deliver my executive report.
All right, with that, the speaker is now open to a period of presentation.
All right, well, howdy, Senate. I hope you all had a really restful fall break. I know a lot of y'all have to open. So I hope you all had a great time. I want to start by saying you saw in SPP Carpenter's and Chief Justice Leffingwell's executive reports kind of very much having fun, looking questions at each other. And I think that just, I would give a shout out to them if I can really, but I think the analysis has spent so much. The three of us have done really trying to emphasize working with all three branches, really just prioritizing relationships with each other and building trust in the community. And so I think that even though it's fun, so I think that's a really good example that the three of us are trying to set. As SPP Carpenter mentioned it in past bill tonight, the investiture. I highly encourage you to attend the election and all of us with that. With the bill being passed and it's going to be sent to every student, I've been looking at different ways of how to make sure that email is in every single student's inbox so we get lost of both, so we're doing protect the child on that. And again, Chief Justice Leffingwell mentioned it did have a court case, and I'm happy to say that myself and Chairman Armstrong were able to represent Senate well, with the court unanimously siding with the respondents, us in that case. And overall, I thank your attendance and diligence halfway through the semester after the student left the semester. And then we've got a handful in the spring, but the clock is ticking down. And so I encourage you to work diligently now because elections will be taken. And so it's really time to get in here and keep working hard and serving your constituents well. And with that, I open the questions.
All right, the speakers now open to a period of question and answer. Do I see any questions from Speaker Blackburn? Seeing none, I will yield the chair. Speaker Blackburn.
With that, we'll now move into a period of closing roll call led by Pro Tem Patel. Again, as a reminder, please don't pack up, so this can go as quickly as possible.
All right, SPP Coppinger. Chief Justice Leffingwell. Chairman Armstrong. Howdy. Chairman Chu. Howdy. Chairman Morrison. Howdy. Chairwoman Gaddis. Chairman Bass. Chairman Cornell. Chairwoman McElwain. Chairwoman Wilhite. Edie Herbert. Senator Fisher. Senator Fawn. Senator James. Senator Tamara Owen. Senator Williams. Senator Roscoe. Senator Bounds. Senator Garcia.
Howdy.
Senator Jusino.
Howdy.
Senator Oberon. Senator Pham. Howdy. Senator Sanchez.
Howdy.
Senator Vernon.
Howdy.
Senator Daniel. Howdy. Senator Rodriguez. Senator Sanders. Howdy. Senator Wright. Howdy. Senator Hunt. Senator Gilliam. Senator Maynard. Senator Mora.
Howdy.
Senator Bradley. Here. Howdy. Senator Childs. Senator Gupta. Senator Kim. Here. Senator Rollins. Howdy. Senator Tucker.
Howdy.
Senator Yappel. Senator Applewhite. Senator Henry Smith. Senator Burrell. Senator Van Hoosier. Senator Arrego. Howdy. Senator Booth. Howdy. Senator Collinsworth.
Howdy.
Senator Edgerton.
Howdy.
Senator Hughes. Senator Coakley. Senator Jojo Owens. Senator Fritzlock. Senator Conrad. Senator Duncan. Senator Flores. Senator Kowalski. Senator Hoffman. Senator House. Senator Hurd. Senator James. Senator Leahy. Senator Monk. Senator Norton. Senator Oliphant. Senator Anna Kate Owens. Senator Puckett. Senator Ratcliffe. Senator Schaefer. Senator Steele. Senator Sloan. Senator Hudson Smith. Senator Stone. Senator Teets. Senator Tripodi. Senator Tullis. Senator Horton. Senator Rasko. Thank you all.
All right, with that, this meeting is adjourned. Good luck on your midterms.
Good luck. Stand up.
I'm not gonna lie, that was gonna be. I think being on it last year hurt me.